Like, I come from Texas, my cat's purring over there. My cat doesn't have purr.
Hello and welcome to another episode of
Learning English with Reza and Craig, or
Aprender Inglés con Reza y Craig. My name's Craig.
My name's Reza.
And together with our 40 years of teaching experience, we're going to help you improve your English and take it up to the next level. That's your grammar, your vocabulary, your pronunciation. And this week, in this week's episode, we're going to look at Onomatopoeia, which means words that phonetically imitate, resemble, or suggest the source of the sound that they describe. So the imitation of a sound, for example, a cow. A cow goes
moo.
So MOO is the word in English you'd use to describe the sound a cow makes. So that's onomatopoeia. It's the same word in Spanish. Let's look at some other animals. For example, a cat, Reza?
Meow. Meow.
So that could be a verb or a noun, couldn't it? You could say your cat is meowing, or can you hear the meows from the neighbour's cat? What about a dog?
Woof.
Woof, woof. So a dog goes woof, WOOF, another word describing the sound of an animal. Now, in English, if you listen to a clock, for example, you'd say that the sound the clock is making is tick-tock, 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 the sound of a clock. But in Hindi, they would say tick-tick. And in Mandarin, they'd say di-da. And in Japanese, kachin-kachin. So every language has its own particular onomatopoeic word for the sound that you hear. Let's go back to animals now and look at some other animal sounds. Reza, what sound does a sheep make?
Ba.
You're going to be doing the animal sounds this podcast.
The sheep bars.
Okay, Reza, do a sheep. Ba. Do a dog. What about the sound of a bee or a fly, for example? Una mosca.
A bee buzzes. That's third person singular. So the verb in the infinitive is to buzz. So a bee buzzes.
Buzzes. Also, you have the phrasal verb to buzz off, which means to go away. Buzz off, go away. But the sound of a bee, buzz.
Other things buzz. You won't be surprised to hear that buzzers buzz. Well, you shouldn't be surprised. A buzzer is something that buzzes. For example, to let someone know that you're at their door, you ring the buzzer and it goes bzzz, and they know, someone's at my door. Someone has buzzed me.
Also, if you're doing a quiz, you'd have a noise like this, and that's the buzzer to answer the question. What about birds? Pájaros.
Well, birds do various sounds, don't they? The most common words we use are chirp, and also we say tweet and Twitter.
And of course, with social media, you've heard of twittering or tweeting. So Twitter is the platform. Twitter is the social media platform. And the verb to tweet is to write a message on Twitter. But it's the sound a bird makes as well, to tweet.
What about cock-a-doodle-doo? Do you know that in Spanish?
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
What's that in Spanish?
Is it cocorico?
Yes, kikiriki.
It's kikiriki.
Kikiriki.
Close.
What about that? So what cocks do? We're talking about animals, right? What cocks do is cock-a-doodle-doo in English, but in Spanish, kikiriki. Quite different, eh? Cocks seem to be quite different depending on where you go.
Is it the male hen?
The cock, indeed.
Yeah, the cock that makes the noise, so the female one doesn't make the noise?
Yes, it's the cock, it's the male bird. We can't say the male hen because the hen's the female,
the hen's
right?
The female.
The male bird, the cock, which goes cock-a-doodle-doo, kikiriki.
You could also use the verb to cluck, C-L-U-C-K,
Yes. It's more typical of the hen to cluck, isn't it?
True.
When hens, the female birds, are protecting, sitting on their eggs, they tend to cluck. They go cluck, 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 sitting on the eggs. You know?
They do.
So yes, the cock is the male bird. Has other meanings, but you can check that out on the internet.
And remember, you can find all of these show notes and words and vocabulary on our website at inglespodcast.com.
Craig, let's do it the other way now. I'm going to make a sound. You tell me what animal I am.
Go for it. That sounds like the hissing of a snake.
Indeed it is.
HISS. So a snake, when it moves, when its tongue comes out, it makes that hissing sound.
Now what animal am I?
I think that's a horse.
Yes, me too. I'm not sure, but I think so. Yeah.
I think that's a horse. And the verb is to neigh. Neigh. So a neighing horse. Let me try it. Neigh.
That was better, yes. Yeah, I like that.
My headphones just fell off. What about a mouse? What noise does a mouse make?
Squeak, 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 squeak.
That's terrible. Listen. That's squeak. SQUEAK. And if you listen very carefully, you can hear Razor's chair squeaking. The squeaking of Razor's chair. So it's also used when something has that particular sound that's a little bit... So a door can squeak, for example, when you open it. A squeaking door or squeaking chair. What about a pig?
Pigs,
Un cerdo.
the sound they make is oink.
Mm-hmm.
Oink, 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 oink. But if you want to turn it into a verb, it's to grunt. But the actual noise is described as oink.
Spelling OINK. Which animal's this?
That's the purring of a cat.
PURR. So a cat purrs and a dog barks.
I'd like to point out the spelling of purr because Spanish speakers will find it very funny. We've talked before about how the final letter R is often silent in English. Well, it doesn't matter even if it's a double R, like PURR. If you want to be standard English in your pronunciation, British English, you would pronounce it as purr. If you did that in Belfast, I'd laugh at you, but that's what it says in the dictionary. I prefer to say it my way, which is purr. At least I make some kind of R sound. But according to the dictionary, it's pronounced purr. Am I right?
Yes. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking the same sound as the word nurse or purse or turn. So it's that sound.
So even though there's a double R written, there's no R pronounced. It's purr.
Not with my sort of London southeast or southern England accent, but obviously maybe in Ireland or America, they'd pronounce the R more, so they'd say purr.
Like I come from Texas, my cat's purring over there. My cat doesn't have purr.
A duck, which is pato, un pato in Spanish. What noise does a duck make?
Quack.
Quack, 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 quack. QUACK, which is also slang for a doctor, isn't it? A quack?
Yes, a quack's a doctor that you can't really trust. A fake doctor.
A fake doctor. Doctor that's not really reliable. So when it's a noun, it could be used to describe a bad doctor. But the sound a duck makes is, the verb is to quack. A duck quacks. Let's look at a couple of verbs connected to water, because when water changes place or moves, it has particular onomatopoeic sounds. So, for example, if your tap, tu grifo, your faucet in American English, your tap doesn't close properly, What's the verb we'd use for the gotas that drop down?
When water drops, then the sound is drip. So it's the sound of a drip when it goes.
And it's really annoying, isn't it, when you have a dripping tap? You can't close it properly, and the tap's dripping, and you can't sleep.
What about the word drizzle, Craig?
Drizzle, D-R-I-Z-Z-L-E. I love that word, to drizzle. Well, it could be speaking about rain, because if you say, well, is it raining? Well, it's raining a little. It's drizzling, which means very slightly. It's drizzling. Usually that very fine rain that's not heavy, but you get wet when it's drizzling. But also it reminds me of olive oil being drizzled over a salad. Mm-hmm. So one verb is to pour, which is echar, P-O-U-R, which is when liquid moves quickly, a lot of liquid, but to just pour a little kind of olive oil, just a little bit on top of bread, that's drizzle, to drizzle some olive oil on your toast.
If you remember from a couple of episodes ago, we talked about the verb to plunge, to dive into water. Well, if you plunged into water, the sound you might make is a splash. So when an object or a person enters water violently, the sound you hear is a splash, splash.
When water is displaced. And you can splash in the bath if you're in a bath and you move your hands around and you're splashing water. Let's look at voice now, because there are some verbs we could use to describe different noises the voice makes. What about growl? G-R-O-W-L. Because dogs can growl, can't they?
Dogs and other animals growl.
But you could also use it in reported speech. You could say, I never want to see you again, he growled. So it's a very negative implication, a very negative word to speak in bad humour when you're angry or annoyed.
Craig, you've given an example there. So what you're going to do now, whether you like it or not, is you're going to say exactly the same example in different ways now. Now I want you to mumble that example. Mumble it.
What was my example? I can't think of an example.
I never want... You first growled, I never want to see you again. You growled. Could you mumble it now?
I never want to see you. I'm not going to see you again.
Yes, well
so
done.
It's almost impossible to understand when you mumble.
When somebody mumbles, it's very hard. It's very hard to hear. I can't mumble it. It's very hard to know what's going on.
Speak clearly, boy. If you're mumbling, people can't understand you. So maybe your mother or your teacher says, speak clearly. Don't mumble. Don't mumble. So it's to speak in a very unclear way.
Well, Craig, you asked for it. Now giggle that sentence.
I never want to see you again.
Well, giggled, yes. Yes, yeah.
I said giggle, not Google. Giggle is G-I-G-G-L-E. It means to laugh in a silly way, to giggle.
Can you bawl your sentence now? B-A-W-L, bawl?
It's like crying, isn't it?
Could be, yeah.
I never want to see you again.
That was Craig bawling. He was bawling that. Now, can you murmur the sentence?
But that's similar to mumble. What's the difference between murmur and mumble?
Not a lot.
Very similar. Mm-hmm. So I never want to see you again, he murmured. So it's to speak in a very low voice, not very clearly, barely audible, which means that you can hardly hear it. It's a very low tone. So you're speaking like this and you're murmuring it very softly.
Can you burp it?
That's a burp.
Well done.
Erupción, I think, in Spanish. So to burp is what I just did. And it's also a noun. So it's not very polite. So be careful when you burp and to whom you burp. It's not very nice to burp in front of people. So I apologize for burping.
Let's talk about air now, Craig. What can you do with air, or what does air do?
Well, when you speak like this, then you can say you're whispering because the air is coming out very slowly. So to whisper WHISPER is to speak like this. What about swoosh, which is another word connected to aired, SWOOSH? In which situation would you hear a swoosh?
Swoosh, for me, is the sound of air moving quickly. For example, if a big curtain opens, would that make a swoosh, perhaps?
Yeah, especially those curtains that are connected at the top with like runners that go very quickly. So you would open the curtains very, very smoothly and very quickly, and they make a noise that sounds like this. Swoosh, swoosh. Just opens very quickly and very smoothly.
What about if someone gasps?
That's a gasp. So you say something shocking, very unusual, like I'm going to sell my house because I can't afford to live here anymore. You can have a gasp of amazement. So you gasp with shock, for example. Going back to your curtain idea, if you have the window open and you have curtains, the curtains can flutter in the breeze. To flutter, FLUTTER. What does that mean?
When the curtains kind of move in the breeze, slightly, a little bit. Yeah, it's not onomatopoeia, but we'll put it in anyway.
Moving on
swiftly
to collisions, things that bang into each other. Now, bang is a word that sounds like it is.
That's onomatopoeia for sure. Yep.
Yeah. So, what example could we use with bang? He closed the door with a bang.
Mm-hmm. Or he banged the door. Even you can make it a verb.
Yep.
What am I doing, Craig?
You're clapping. CLAP. Palmos? To clap. Again, a verb and a noun. If you like this podcast, please clap now. Another word is jingle. So you can, I've got some keys here and I'm jingling. I'm jingling the keys. So to jingle is a metal, when metal crashes against metal, it jingles.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. You can jingle bells, can you not?
Moving on.
Very swiftly.
The jingling of money in Reza's pockets. What about thump?
There's two thumps.
Reza's thumping on the desk. I think you heard that. And to slap, you can slap.
Oh, Craig just hit me in the face.
Slap
Again.
someone. Slap someone.
Stop it. Oh, really, Craig?
In the face. Or
he wants me to shut up.
On the backside. And clinking. Clinking is... You can clink glasses if you want to say cheers. If it's your anniversary or birthday and you want to drink, say, hey, cheers. Let's clink glasses. And one that's quite similar to thump is thud. That was more like a clap.
That was more like a clap, wasn't it? Yeah, I tried to thud, but it didn't quite work.
Thump on the table.
Yeah.
That's more like a thump. So, for example, if you live in a flat, as we do, and suddenly somebody falls out of their bed or out of their chair in the flat above you, you hear a thump.
Or a thud.
Boom. Or a thud. So that's that dull noise of somebody in the next room falling out of bed.
That's interesting. You say a dull noise, but we better explain that because not everyone will know. What's a dull noise then? Thump, thud.
Well, there are dull noises and sharp noises. Sharp, it's really got something to do with tone, I think, isn't it?
So dull's kind of low pitch.
Low pitch.
Thump.
Bajo. And
sharp sounds are things like tweeting, squeaking,
clinking glasses.
Clinking, they're sharp sounds.
Yeah. There are one or two more examples. When somebody rings your bell, the bell makes the sound ding dong.
Has anyone rung your bell recently?
No, not physically or
Okay.
metaphorically.
I see.
If somebody rings your bell metaphorically, they excite you.
What's the next one, Craig?
Well, have you ever seen a ghost?
Yes.
Ooh. So a ghost makes that moaning sound, to moan, M-O-A-N. Now, to moan can mean complain. If you're moaning, you're complaining, oh, why don't you paint the flat? The flat looks really bad. Stop moaning. Stop complaining.
Or when you're in pain, you can also moan.
Exactly.
Oh, my feet are killing me. Oh, ow. I'm moaning in pain.
So you can moan in pain, and if you're a ghost and you're haunting a house, then you can moan like this.
Craig, I can think of one other situation where you would moan. Can you? Not in pain, but indeed in pleasure.
Listening to this podcast?
In pleasure? Moaning in pleasure, yeah?
Oh, yeah, you can moan in pleasure, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it in pleasure or with pleasure? Moan with pleasure.
Whatever. Have you moaned in pleasure recently or with pleasure?
Not for a while, no. It's been a while that I've moaned in pleasure.
But you can probably imagine, ladies and gentlemen, that when you're in an ecstatic state of extreme pleasure, you might also moan.
You could give a pleasurable moan. When you phone somebody, sometimes you hear beep, or somebody saying, leave your message after the beep or after the tone. So the beep is the high-pitched sound or tone that you hear before you leave your message.
So you hear something like, "Hi, this is Reza. I'm afraid I'm not here right now to take your call, but please leave your message after the beep."
Beep. When you're driving, you have a klaxon in Spanish, which has several words, I think. Honk. To honk, the verb is the sound that a klaxon makes.
Yes, klaxon's all very well, but can we think of a word a little less 19th century than klaxon?
Isn't
What
klaxons...
a car horn, maybe?
Yeah, but isn't klaxon...
All right, I thought you were saying it in English, because there is klaxon in English as well, but it sounds a bit Sherlock Holmes to me.
I said that because I couldn't think of the name of the English klaxon.
Isn't it horn? It's horn, isn't it?
A horn?
Horn.
Oh, okay. So when you are...
Don't say klaxon in English unless you're filming a Sherlock Holmes series.
So when you are honking your horn, it will make a hooting sound or a tooting sound, which is really quite interesting because I would say hoot as a verb. Like you shouldn't hoot people out of anger. You should hoot people on the road to let them know where you are. But would you say hoot? Because I think it's very country-centric, because I think Americans say toot or honk.
I would say all three. I don't really mind, to be honest, yeah.
Okay. So to honk, to hoot, or to toot when you're in your car. What about the word bleep? B-L-E-E-P. Where would you hear that? What bleeps?
Well, if someone, of course it wouldn't be us, but if someone in a podcast put in a profanity that listeners would rather not hear, we might have to bleep it. So you might hear, for example, there are times when Craig has wanted to say, Reza is a bleep pain in the ass. And the bleep was a very rude word, but we couldn't say it. So we had to bleep it out.
You might also hear bleep in the hospital because a lot of machines bleep. They make a beep, beep, beep sound, especially when they're measuring your heart and your breathing. So you'd hear bleeps from electronic hospital equipment. We spoke about buzz with flies and bees, etc. But of course, machines, especially technological machines and phones, buzz. If you turn off your phone volume, maybe you hear a buzz, a very low buzz from your phone when you receive a message. Computers buzz and other electrical devices buzz as well. What about Zoom? Where would you hear that, Reza?
What about, I was going to ask you, Craig, since you wrote it. I didn't quite understand.
Well, a car zooms, doesn't it? It goes
zooms past. Okay.
Zoom.
All right.
So if a motorbike goes past in the street, and it
Yeah.
would make that zooming noise.
That's true. I hadn't thought that. It is onomatopoeia. I thought he was talking, listeners, about, because I'm a bit stupid, I thought he was talking about camera zooms, and I thought, oh, that's not onomatopoeia. But no, he's talking about the sound zoom, because I forgot that there were two meanings of zoom. So car zoom past, and then your camera zoom, that's not onomatopoeia. That means make something look bigger. Sorry, I didn't think about that one.
That's okay. Of course, in Spanish you'd say thum, but you'd make it voiced in English. The theta, the Z, is voiced, so it sounds like z.
Hold on, but you wouldn't say thumb in Spanish unless you're talking about a camera zoom.
Correct, but on a camera zoom, you'd say camera thum.
But for the onomatopoeia zoom, they don't say zoom in Spanish.
What do they say?
I don't know.
Me neither.
But they don't say zoom.
So if you know what you say, let us know. What about hum? What things hum?
There you go.
How
I just
patriotic of you.
hummed the American national anthem.
I noticed you hummed the American national anthem and not the British one.
Well, after the Brexit, I'm a bit shy about the British one now.
Hum. Also,
So what did I do?
you hummed? The
Yep.
verb to hum
Which is what?
What Reza just did.
Which is what? You don't answer me. Oh, you are answering me. That's the answer.
It's that.
Okay.
That's a hum.
Singing without saying any words.
Correct.
In other words.
But also, a refrigerator might have a low hum, a constant low sound. So you might hear your refrigerator humming during the night. Rustle. Reza's rustling some papers at the moment. Also in the UK, when the leaves fall off the trees in autumn and they get dry and you're walking along and you're walking through the leaves, which is a lovely memory for me.
Oh, it's lovely.
You hear the leaves rustling because they're dry and the roads are full of leaves and you've got that rustling sound under your feet. Cough. 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 Toser. Is that onomatopoeia? Yeah.
Yeah. Cough. Cough.
And if you drink Coca-Cola, Sprite, that kind of thing, when you open it, you often hear a fizz of the gas escaping from the can. So F-I-Z-Z, fizz. You can also use as an adjective, a fizzy drink. So you can have a still drink or a fizzy drink with gas. Still water, mineral, or fizzy water. And the fizz is the sound it makes when the bubbles come up. Gulp. G-U-L-P is very onomatopoeic, isn't it? So it's the when you swallow and it makes that gulping sound.
You swallow kind of quickly, and maybe you take in air accidentally.
Yeah. Spit. Thank you.
Right.
Lovely. Can you clean the microphone?
Yeah, just let me clean the mic now.
Also connected to the nose and the mouth is this sniff. S-N-I-F-F. So to sniff flowers or to sniff food with your nose. Well, I think that's enough onomatopoeia for this episode. Thank you for listening. It's your turn to practice your English. If you have a question for us or an idea, perhaps, for a future episode, please get in touch, send us a voice message in English, and tell us what you think. You can reach us at SpeakPipe, that's SpeakPipe, speakpipe.com/inglespodcast. You can also send us an email to me, Craig, at inglespodcast.com.
Or to me, Reza at belfastreza@gmail.com. We'd also like to thank our Patreon sponsors, starting off with Bruno, who's our gold sponsor. Bruno is the man who organizes walking tours of Copenhagen, and you can check out his company on copenhagenwalkingtour.com, where you can find out all the information about tours in that city in Denmark, or If you're more interested in South America, he also organizes walking tours of Rio de Janeiro in the favelas, which are completely safe because they're led by local guides and some of the money helps the community to improve. You can find out about those tours on favelawalkingtour.com.br.
Yes, thanks very much, Bruno, for being a gold sponsor. And also, of course, thank you to our other wonderful Patreons who are supporting the podcast. They are Ana Giovanna, Dana Constantin, Pachi Ibañez, Manuel Tarazona, Juan Carlos Lorado, Beatriz Sanchez, Pedro Martínez, Maite Paracín Pérez, Lara Allem, Rafael Bancels, Nestor García Mañez from Luces Extrañas, his podcast at nestorgm.com, Maria Gervati, Lorena, Sara Jarabo, Carlos Garrido, Mamen, Juan Leiva Galera, Corey Finneran and his podcast on baseball at ivmv.com, Miren Full, José Luis Araguay, Agus Paulucci, María Reidamen, Manuel García Petagón, Raúl López, Rafael, José Manuel Fernández Picazo, Pilar Martínez, Gambate Blog, Igor, Garmendia, Ignacio Espona, Kieran, Carlos García, Ana Ibarra, Marina Ortez Pena, and of course our latest sponsors to join our Patreon program, Juan Carlos Pantin Fernández, Joel Silvera, Alejandro Pluma, Alex Cuadra, José Emilio Villena, Emilio Manuel Martínez Rivas, and Antonio. Thank you, all of you.
And if you'd like to join our Patreon program, you can for as little as just $1 per month. And that way you get instant access to recent transcriptions that have been lovingly transcribed by Angelica Bello from Madrid. Just go to patreon.com/English podcast.
And thank you also to the pencil of Patricia Alonso, who continues working hard transcribing episodes for you. And we now have available episodes 1 to 21 and 131 to 142 on our blog at inglespodcast.com. And thank you to you for listening, and we'll see you in the next podcast. It's goodbye from me.
And it's cheerio from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.